evaluate them as such. And that's fine. I'm not against that at all. I'm not against critiquing them. They should be critiqued when they need it. But what my focus in that was, and why I wanted to bring it up and share it with you, is just I'm concerned for some of my friends who get caught up in the hate, in the negativity online, and it just dominates their thoughts, and they're not able to actually enjoy what we're seeing with this Phoenix Suns team having already picked up 31 wins, and they still have 27 games left. Is that what you said, Ed? Yeah, 27 games left. I mean, how many of those? If we're conservative, right? If we're conservative and they win half those, they're 14-13. What is their record after that? 45.
45 and 27.
45 and 27. If they win just half the games. That's unbelievable. And I'm not trying to tell people don't have higher expectations. It's okay to have higher expectations. But if you're going to have higher expectations, a lot of times what that's going to mean is you're not going to allow yourself to enjoy what you're seeing. Because going into the season, if I told you 45 wins, you would have absolutely taken it every day of the week. Am I wrong?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all.
Because Johnny, we know what we've had over the last decade or so. It's been a absolute desert, to use the term, because we're in Arizona. It's been a desert as far as winning is concerned with this franchise. And now I don't know why your friends are just baffled by this 31-14 start by the Phoenix Suns. They should embrace this and love this, because this doesn't come around that often. It's hard to win in this league, John, and to win 31 of 45 games and be 3 games behind the Utah Jazz in the Western Conference and be a viable threat in the Western Conference. They should love that. They should embrace, they should grab this with open arms. They should grab this Phoenix Suns team and love them for what they are. And they're an excellent basketball team.
Yeah. And it's okay to be upset when they lose. It's okay to be mad that they're losing to bad teams. But I think, when it comes to the big picture, and tell me what you guys think, I would prefer them playing better against the better competition and beating those teams that they're going to end up having to face in the playoffs. And once in a while, if they're going to slip up against a bad team and lose a game they shouldn't, yeah, I understand that could affect seeding down the stretch. But it won't affect seeding as much as losing a tiebreaker to a team like, the Lakers, which, by the way, they didn't do. They've already won that tiebreaker and won that series. And I know they took advantage of them when they were undermanned, but I don't really care. You have to do that. That's important. Are you going to ever have a tiebreaker with the Orlando Magic, which everybody was rightfully so disappointed that they lost a 1-point game in Orlando last week? But that's not going to matter when it comes to the playoffs. You're not going to face that team. And I would say if you're going to have these mistakes in late game situations, I'd rather have them now in March when I can iron them out over the next month and a half before it really starts to count. So that's where I stand on the current status of Planet Orange and the way fans should be thinking about this basketball team. But I'm not here to tell people how to think. You think the way you think. I think the way I think. It's just advice. That's all it is. Enjoy it. Because there's a lot of things in life that are hard to enjoy right now. There's a lot of things in life that we wish we could change that we can't. And there are some things that are completely out of our control. And there are some things that only come around once in a while, like a great basketball team. I'm hopeful that this team gets there. They could. They're not there yet, and I think Monty Williams would say that too. But they could be great, and that's enough. That's exciting for me.
I want to go ahead and go on to the next question here, and it comes through to Phoenix, and it has to do with Nash and the team, the Brooklyn Nets. So they have now an addition to their roster. LaMarcus Aldridge, he's agreed to came to an agreement to a buyout on his contract with the San Antonio Spurs, and now is joining the Brooklyn Nets. So now, just to add talent to that roster, they're just loaded. And that is something that a team or a coach in their first year coaching really does not come about. And Nash is doing that. Nash, D'Antoni, Stoudemire, and everyone. And just, we know we don't have, we can go down the list of the, names that they have on that roster. They're all all-stars. So that's one of a kind that you don't really have. And the thing is here, and I want to ask you and your thoughts on this, on getting Aldridge added to the roster, but there's been a lot of, I wouldn't say hate, but disapproval or the dislike on all this power that the Nets have on their roster. So do you see that as, I guess, legitimate for a lot of people out there to not be happy about this? I want to go ahead and ask you both, John and Ed, and what your thoughts are on this, because I was watching a TV sports analyst show, and there was someone who said that they're pretty much stealing a championship. What is your take on that comment?
I mean, I don't know if you can call it stealing. Buying a championship might be a phrase I'd use, but we've seen that in every sport. It happens. The Dodgers just did it in baseball. I mean, it's something that doesn't happen every year. Money doesn't always win, but it wins probably more than it loses. And in this case, a lot of people are upset because it's the rich getting richer. You look at a Brooklyn Nets team that's loaded already with those stars of Harden and Kyrie and Kevin Durant, and Durant not even really playing much yet, and yet they're already up on top of the East. So it's pretty safe to say they're going to be a formidable force. But I will say that I'm not mad. I'm not upset at it. Am I a fan of it? No, I don't love the whole super team idea, but I don't know if I guess this was a super team before LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin went there. I mean, that's kind of how I feel. It was already a super team. So did I love that? No, that Kyrie and Kevin Durant and James Harden had to team up to try to win a championship. But this is the power that the players have in the league right now. And this is the current league that we're in. So I'm okay with it. I think it still doesn't mean they're going to win it all. Now, Steve Nash could make it happen. I mean, we love Steve here, obviously. A lot of people do. Love Mike D'Antoni and Amari also. And don't forget Kiwi. I mean, Sean Marks deserves a ton of credit. He's the general manager of this whole deal, and he played here too. So a lot of connections once again, just as it seems like every time there's this crazy super team that comes along, you could point out all the roads lead back to Phoenix. Remember the Warriors and how many of us, I say us as members of Suns, made their way there, from Rick Welch to Steve Kerr to on down the list. So it's a similar feeling with regards to the Nets. And chemistry is important. So you can bring all these all-stars together, but it doesn't mean you're going to win it all. You have a good chance and clearly a better chance than most. But I'm interested to see how it all plays out. Steve's definitely got his work cut out for him, managing all the egos in that room. But if you win, it makes it easy to manage. If you lose and things get sideways, that's where it can be a very difficult job, because you want to talk about expectations. They're through the roof right now, Brooklyn. Yep.
Oh, yes, it is. But they're living up to it right now, 32-15, a half game behind the Philadelphia 76ers in the Eastern Conference. But I have no issue with it. You're in this business with 29 other teams. If you're the Brooklyn Nets, you're in this business to win a championship. And the way you win championships is by acquiring talent and getting that talent to come together and play to their best abilities, come together with that chemistry you talked about Bloomer, and come together and win it and win. Get that jewelry. It's all about getting that jewelry and hoisting that trophy at the end of the NBA Finals, and that's what the Brooklyn Nets are doing. If they want to go get LaMarcus Aldridge, if they want to go get Blake Griffin, if they want to already have three bona fide Hall of Famers, three of I would say arguably three of the top 5 basketball players, if not the top 10 basketball players in this league on their team, then go for it. Yes, I have no issue with it. Just like I didn't have an issue a couple years ago when KD went out to get his championships out in Golden State. Do what you have to do to get that jewelry. Do you?
And this is something that we've seen, Dick. Like we've seen this starting kind of like the players, kind of recruiting players, you can call it, starting off a few years ago, and it's just year after year, it's just been gotten more popular, and you just make those connections, you grow, you play together, and you may want to, your someone that you play with is now with, one team, and we play great together. Let's go ahead and do this. NBA started doing that. Now we're seeing also that go on to the NFL as well. We're seeing that, we see that sometimes in baseball, but now over the last couple of years is just becoming more and more popular. And I think this is the way that the sport is going to be now.
Seems like it. And, maybe more sports, like you said, with football, baseball, other sports getting involved in a similar type of thing. It's a little harder. You just have such bigger rosters in those sports than you do making a difference in basketball. But, the thing about it for me I don't love when guys force their way out of a team after signing a contract with that team unless they've been wronged. If I feel like they've been wronged and there's negligence by the team, or the team hasn't done the right things, and there has been a pretty long-standing documented chasm, or whatever word you want to use, in the relationship between the player and the front office, and I get it. But if it's just because you want to win, that's getting to a point where it's, to me, a little tricky, because in one way you're turning your back on your teammates, right? I get it that you want to win, but you don't think the rest of the dudes in the room want to win too? And, so it's like, yeah, you're the star, so you can get out because you can make a big enough stink that they have to trade you, because if they don't, it's just going to get toxic and worse and worse. And what are the other options? So I don't love that direction, but I get it and I understand it. And I'm not trying to say that the players shouldn't have the ability to move teams, because they certainly get moved by their bosses all the time, and without warning sometimes, where it's just next thing you know, hey, guess what? You got to pick up and move your family to another city across the country. That happens all the time. So why shouldn't a player have the ability to do it? I guess they should, but I don't like it during the middle of a season. I guess, that maybe that's where I stand, is what we saw with James Harden, to me, rubbed me the wrong way. But I think it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And so if the ideal situation happens for Suns fans, the Brooklyn Nets will make their run all the way to the finals. And guess who they will meet? And guess who the rest of the country will jump on board and root for? Because they probably don't like the way that team was constructed either.
True. Oh, my gosh. That's funny that you said that.
But, John, is there anything the league can do about that? About a situation like James Harden coming up or anything like that? It's just the, as you say, the power that the players have, that they can maneuver and get their way out of situations that they're not happy with.
Yeah, I mean, the league has tried to put measures in to help with competitive balance. And that's what I am all for as well. I think that just because you're in a big market doesn't mean you should have a better chance to win a title. It seems to be the case in some sports, but I think that the NBA has tried to do that. Now, you can't limit relationships from being built. You can't limit a lot of things. You can't limit ineptitude. If there's an owner that doesn't know what the heck they're doing and is driving their franchise into the ground, the league really, can't step in until it's really negligent and they're doing something, either illegal or immoral, right? So there's a lot of aspects to building a team, to building a championship, to putting together these, super teams that I don't think the league can really control. But I think the idea is that if you have a strong enough front office, you have strong enough leadership, that you should be able to create the right culture and you should be able to develop a quality competitor. And we've seen that happen now in Phoenix. So it's kind of, but we've also seen a little bit of the previous conversation, because let's be honest, don't mix it. Booker and CP3 share an agent. They had a relationship. They made that trade happen. So you want to talk about super teams coming together. Maybe people aren't going to mention the Phoenix Suns in that conversation, but if they win it all, they'll go back and they'll talk about Booker and Chris Paul as a backcourt. They're the responsible parties with regards to superstars, or at least all-stars at this point in time. So when people look into it, they'll realize that those two guys engineered this thing. And James Jones signed off on it for sure. He's the general manager. It wouldn't have happened without him. But from what I understand, Chris Paul picked the Phoenix Suns and picked Devin Booker to want to play with. And once that happened, he met with Sam Presti, the general manager of Oklahoma City. They made the trade happen with James Jones. They worked it out. Sam Presti and James Jones obviously had to sign off and make the deal. But I don't think it happens without the relationship I talked about with Chris and Devin. So in a way, we're guilty of it here in the Valley, just like in Brooklyn and just like Miami back in the day and any of the other teams you want to talk about. So I'm not against it. I think that if players develop these relationships and they see the potential, boon of playing together with, whoever it happens to be, and they could possibly make it happen without crossing those lines I talked about, I'm okay with it.
So let me go ahead and I'm going to veer off to some NCAA action here, John. There's a reason why they call it March Madness, right?
No doubt.
So there was a lot of action this weekend. So I want to go ahead and get what was your most surprising game of the weekend?
I think I'm just going to throw the Pac-12 in there as the surprise.